So I'll tell you before we get started, as
Hmm.
we let our masses of followers come in.
Yeah, the masses.
uh, I'm working today,
Yeah, I was too.
and I get like, I'm working along, I'm trunking along, and I'm like, it's so cold in my room, like my office, like that's
Hmm.
crazy. So I looked at, I was like, it's only like it's in the 40s. I mean, it's not warm, but
It
I'm like,
was
what's going
cold
on?
this morning.
Yeah, it was in like the 20s.
Yeah, I was outside. Not.
Yeah. Um, and I'm like working, I'm like, I was like, I'm fine. All right, let me go turn the heat up, which was not on at all. And it was 56 degrees in my apartment.
That'll do
And I
it.
was like, that's why it was frigid.
Yeah. At least it turned right back on.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had to use the heat yet.
Sure. There you go. Right.
So I don't know if you've really experienced the not having had to use the heat and then use it in the first
Hmm.
time of the year, and your whole place just smells like it's going to burn down
Yeah.
immediately.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, I literally had to call City. It's like, it might smell like it's burning in here, but if
Yeah.
like, don't freak out.
That happens with our fireplace.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was just like, okay, deep breaths, which obviously
Yeah.
once I she was fine, but I definitely would have expected like a phone call or text because she's getting home probably within the next like 10 minutes. So
Hmm.
she'll be home while we're live.
Yeah.
So I was like, please don't like bust into my office and be like, we're
Yeah.
burning down. Unless we are, and then please do that.
Or honestly, don't.
Yeah, you're right. It's a great point.
Yeah. Last note before we start.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have any they trick or treat in your apartment complex? The kids do that? Is that a thing there?
No, I haven't had any. I mean,
We
I
had
looked
like
around.
10
I didn't.
kids in our whole neighborhood. I had like
Yeah,
I went all in. I got like the full size bars, Reese's, Kit Kats,
yeah.
Hershey's. I got like the big sour punch straw things for kids who don't like chocolate as much. I got like
Well,
10. I have
you
so much chocolate
know why now?
for the
It's
dog.
perfect, perfect. Uh, it's because of these trunk or treats
That's
that
fuck.
are everywhere.
I
Yeah,
I hate the way that the world has changed since we were children. I'm an
trust
old
me.
man now. I hate
I
it.
have of that
Like
moment. I
that
had
was
that moment about the same thing and went, "Oh,
like
that this is how they all
when
felt."
Halloween was still real, when we were kids, and we would go around with our friends and walk the whole
Yeah.
neighborhood and knock on every single door because we didn't wanna go in. Like, those
Yep.
were some of the best memories I had
And
in
it was
childhood. It
like
was so much fun. I look forward to it all year.
I remember it was like lines of kids. Like it's there
Mhm.
you would like follow kids around
There
like
would be
there
so
was
many. Yeah,
so
you'd be
many
waiting in
children.
line at every house because there are
Yeah.
kids everywhere. Everywhere. And the whole
Yeah.
season, I mean, it was that's such a shame.
Yeah. It's definitely it changed and that
I
sucks.
hate that.
Yeah, me too. I mean the trunk or treat, like
Yeah.
for me, there's like cool there's school friends, but like I was always very lucky.
Mhm.
I had a group of friends in my neighborhood who I didn't go to school with.
Same.
Like, right, exactly. And I feel like we both had a really good experience with that because there's some things that like you don't like that don't hit that group. Like
Yes.
there's
Yeah, yeah.
jokes that are different. There's like
Mhm.
school drama that like you just don't want to talk
It's
about
nice.
anymore. Well,
Yeah,
guess
it's
what?
nice
It's
to
not.
have a different group.
Yeah, and I feel like kids these days because you don't get things like that and like kids don't really go outside as much anymore. Like you definitely don't have that physical group. You may have like a online friend group.
You have a group of kids that you get together with, and you all sit and stare at your phones together.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's so true. And they're not even as good as like I'll tell you, like seriously, I feel like when we do that because we're all addicted to our
Everyone is.
devices and shit. Everyone is,
Everyone in the whole world is.
but I feel like they're worse at multitasking with it
Sure.
because like when we talk to each other
Mhm.
and one of us is on a device or something, like we still answer. We're still
Mhm.
cognizant. And I mean, I'll talk to my brothers and it's just like,
Huh?
what? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? You shouldn't be just staring at me saying, what? I'm the high one. You should be responding. I
Yeah.
should be the one zoning out and saying what?
What are you?
Although I mean, seriously, dude, like my second of three brothers just turned 18 and I felt so old.
Well, wait till you have nieces and nephews who've graduated college.
I the age I'll be by then. I mean, I that's not. I'll be retired. I think. I mean,
know.
oh man. All right.
All right, we
Well,
should do this.
yeah. I guess we can just get started. Get rolling. I'm down.
You just tell me when to start the countdown.
Right. Let me get my design stuff up. I am ready.
3, 2, 1.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Nick.
There was no chance you were
No
singing
chance.
anything. Nope.
No chance.
I wasn't either.
So instead, what I'll say is, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Totem Talks.
That's right.
And an interesting little thing we're trying out here, a like between the seasons mini
Season
series.
6.5, episode 1A.
Yes. 1A. Right. Okay.
Yes. I have them as 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D.
Interesting. Okay. I could dig it. That's good for me to know as I format these in the list.
Of course.
Which will, of course,
because I have them in the overall list, and like this is, the last season ended on episode 150. So season and a half, 6.5 is episode 150A, 150B, 150C, and 150D overall.
Okay.
So that way, season 7 still starts on episode 151. For whatever that's worth. It at least keeps the 25 segments of 25 easy to keep track of for the non-half seasons.
That's fair. I like that. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
And it's totally irrelevant to everyone listening. So
that's
anyway.
Okay. You want to dive more into the minutia? How about the formulas we use in our Excel spreadsheets? It's quite in depth.
Sounds really interesting.
All right. Well, anyway, you're Nick. I'm Pat. We are Totem Talks. And we are taking every musical artist who has ever existed in the history of the world and comparing and contrasting them 2 at a time. So we'll be here for a while. 2 at a time to determine once and for all who is the greatest musical artist of all time. And that's the goal here.
Yes, it is.
And we take it very, very seriously.
That's true. What we say is law.
No opinions allowed. No guff. No none of that. It's strictly scientific in this place. Right. But anyway, why don't you walk our listeners through the 2 artists we're covering today?
Yeah, I would love to. So to kick off the season 6.5, and season 6.5 is all about guitar playing. So every matchup is going to be between 2 excellent guitarists. And we're starting off with 2 very different people. We got a country guitarist in Keith Urban going up against a funk guitarist, Corey Wong. So we shall see who comes out on top.
Yes, we will. It's going to be quite the battle. Quite the battle.
Indeed.
And I'll take us right into it here. So
Please.
We're going to start with Keith Lionel Urban. Is an Australian and American singer, guitarist, and songwriter known for his work in country music. Born in New Zealand was our boy Keith Urban.
But he's not a Kiwi.
He was born in New Zealand
to Australian
he
parents.
Is referred to as Australian throughout.
Okay.
I wanted to be clear that both of those things are true. So nobody can yell at me when
I
I
would never.
say one or the other. He was born in New Zealand, according to Wikipedia. However,
Okay,
it says he is Australian.
sure, somewhere in
And
the
that's
South
what I know.
Pacific, just that general vicinity.
What I can tell you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is we covered 3 albums by Keith Urban. We started with the eponymous debut, Keith Urban from 1991. We went forward with Be Here from 2004, and then we closed things out with The Speed of Now, Part 1.
So can I say something
I already
before we
think
even
I
start?
know what you're gonna
Yeah.
say, and don't worry, I was ready for that.
Yeah, I had no idea that he has 2 different albums named Keith
You
Urban. His
listened to the
first and his 3rd
1999
album.
one.
No, I started listening to the 1999 one, realized what I was doing, and then stopped it and put on the 1991 one.
Fascinating. I legitimately was like, I'm just gonna listen to both, and whatever
Yeah,
one Nick
that
listened to,
that
we'll
wasn't gonna happen
discuss.
for me, so
No, 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 I get that. Trust me. I did it because he was my
as
artist, and I
as
felt
soon as I found
obligated.
out I knew that I didn't have to listen to all of the second Keith Urban, I stopped it immediately.
That's fair. I understand. However, we're still gonna get started with Keith
Keith
Urban.
Urban, obviously.
And here's what I'll tell you. It's oddly standard for modern-esque country. In that I'm saying, like, this is an Australian man who decided American country music was the way to go.
Not uncommon.
Right, but and just does it, just pulls it off. And that's to say that it's pretty rough. But based on the style of country music, it's a little too in the main for me. As in, like, it doesn't touch, like, Americana vibes that I'm looking for. It doesn't touch those, like, older school American country. It's much more, like, of the truck, dirt road, pretty girl country, with a lot of, like, love ballads mixed in. And it's not done badly, like, he's a decent singer. Uh, I don't know. I can't say that I love the genre. So,
Yes, I
that's what I
agree.
got.
Okay, so let me start off by saying I think this is his best album.
Sure.
Um, it was the one that I got through the easiest. I didn't like it, but I wasn't offended by it.
Yeah,
Like you said, like it is the most plain possible music it is pure vanilla of the country style. And honestly, I felt like a lot of it was like soft rock with a country feel, a la Eagles, except for
sure.
done in a way that was way cheesier and not as interesting. It was like if you took everything that was good about the Eagles and just like left only the very worst crumbs of what they were trying to do. And that's what Keith Urban was doing here.
I get it, I get it.
Yeah, and like
Now
the other thing, the production is also very clearly early 90s, like late 80s,
yes,
early 90s. Like you could spot this within 5 years easy.
100%.
Yeah.
That was part of what I was gonna say right there. It is very plain, unfortunately. And here's what I'll say. Since we both listened to some of the
Mhm.
second album,
Yeah, sure, go
let's
ahead.
just give it a quick thing. And here's what I'll tell you. Everything I said about the first album, turn that up to not even 11, turn that up to
Mhm.
20.
Sure.
This is like somebody today typed in a chat GPT and just said,
Mhm.
make me country love songs,
Yeah.
and then did a passable job performing them.
Sure.
He's like I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
he's a good
They're
singer.
executed well.
Yeah, he's a good singer. He's a really good guitar player. All of that shines through. The backing group is really good. It's just a genre of music that has so much more potential in it that when it's not touched, it kind of is rough.
Mhm. Yeah, I do wanna say one other thing, like, my positives
Yeah,
for this are, one, on his the real first Keith Urban, there was one song that I enjoyed, and it was the instrumental Clutterbilly, which was actually like a bluegrass instrumental, and it was
Yes.
actually like really well done. Stood out way above, head and shoulders above every other thing he's ever released. And then the only other thing that I thought was interesting about the second Keith Urban, because I only listened to like 3 or 4 songs,
Right.
is the first song basically was like clearly the drum. I don't know if it was a drummer or a drum track because I can't remember right now, but it was a hip hop drum beat. Like it was a very clear beat, like taken from hip hop music, and just like a plain old country song over top of it, which was at least different and interesting. I was
Sure.
like, huh, I wonder what's happening here. It made me stop and think. And that's positive, I suppose. So now I'm going to go to B here. And so here's what's super interesting to me about this album.
Yeah.
This album was 4 times platinum. It
It
came out
was.
when I was 12. So like it was a time when people still listened to the radio, when I would have heard things that were popular and whatnot. 5 different singles on this album certified, 3 gold and 2 platinum.
Yes.
I have never heard of anything about this album. I've never heard any of those songs. I've never heard of the record. Like,
I
it's
mean,
incredible that it could
this
be
is
so successful, and I had no clue about any of it.
this is so far out of your orbit,
It's
though.
so far out of
You're
my
you're
comfort zone.
you're not going to listen. I mean, this is a country artist. You don't really listen to country artists. You listen to like country rock or like
Sure, I'll
old
do Southern rock,
country.
older country,
Yeah,
but
like but you don't seek out
bluegrass, yeah, I
and
don't seek
or the
out
radio. You don't
artists.
listen to the radio for country music.
Certainly not.
So
But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just you
it makes
think of
perfect
5
sense.
huge certifying singles that I would have at least maybe recognized parts of one? Nope.
Sure. I mean, I would assume that if
I
you
mean, I
heard any of
existed
these,
out in the world during those times, I
right.
wasn't
But are you remembering the songs that played at the mall?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like that's where you might have heard it,
Yeah, true.
or
But
like at a
anyway,
restaurant.
I just thought that that was interesting that it was so successful and, like, completely
No,
missed
it
me.
is. Trust me.
And, like, here's the thing. This album, it comes out, and the year is 2004. 3 years prior, a terrible thing happened. 9/11 happened. It was a horrible tragedy, and the country music world completely changed what it was after that.
Yes.
And every popular country band that has come out since 9/11 has been the most awful, insipid, pandering bullshit, and that's exactly what this album was. It was I mean, it was well executed, just like the first album. Like, the songs were well performed, and if you are trying to pander to, like, good old country boys and gals, like, you're pandering just the right way, but boy, was there nothing in here to appeal to me. I mean, like, the music isn't unpleasant to listen to. I mean, it's pretty basic harmonically and everything like that. It's naturally pleasing to the human ear, but my god, the songs were awful and I hated them all. And that's all I have
I
to say.
Here's what I'm going to tell you right now. I know you pretty well, reasonably
That's true,
well.
you do.
I know at least your first, middle, and last name.
That's all you really need to know about someone to know them.
That's a great point. And I'll tell you right now that by song 8, you probably
Mhm.
fully were mentally
Oh
comatose,
my god, it was awful.
which means you missed the only good song on the whole album,
The Elton John cover?
the Elton John cover.
Mhm.
Which I mean, listen, it's one of Elton John's weaker tracks, "Country Comfort,"
Sure.
but it was clearly the best song on this album for no other reason than the
Then Elton
competition.
John wrote it.
Yeah, well, exactly. Elton and Bernie doing it up. Everything else you're absolutely right about. This is Keith Urban. Here's what I'll keep saying: very talented at guitar and a decent to good singer.
Mhm.
Like I don't think anybody's gonna be like blown away by his voice, but it's fully more than just passable. It's good to listen
Yeah.
to. But yeah, it's just writing the most. It's the same thing. There's no interesting moments here.
Nothing.
There's no
There's nothing that happened that ChatGPT couldn't have given you.
right. Exactly. Like that's exactly what the problem
Yeah.
is it's so middle of the road. And
Hmm.
even the like album covers, because this has an album cover and an alternative album cover. One is just like Keith Urban sitting staring off to the side, and one of him is doing that same thing but black and white in a car. And that's
Yeah.
just so typical to me.
Honestly, you know what it is, and I feel like we overuse maybe we use this term so much when we're talking about pop music that people might think that we're just being biased towards like certain instrumentations and sounds.
Sure.
This is audio product. This is audio
Yes.
product. Like, just because it's being played on organic instruments doesn't make it any different. This is like lab created. Let's pick the exact topics and words and chord progressions that will offend no one and will be easy to listen to, and just pick the most plain subjects and take no act have no interesting things to say about them. And like that's what it is. Like it's audio product country edition.
Sure. Listen, I can't disagree with you. I'll
Yeah,
tell you that just based on our like musical proclivities, I probably don't hate this as much as you hate it.
probably.
I certainly don't like it.
But
I mean,
artistically,
that's
there's nothing there. Like,
right, and
here's the
that's what I
thing
mean.
about
That's why
you.
I don't
You
like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might be more amenable to listening to that easy listening type of stuff.
Yeah.
But when something has no artistic value, like, you're also looking for something there, you
Oh,
know?
100%. And it's
You want some
super
there.
yeah, it's super clear that this is an abyss
Yeah.
of nothingness. I just mean that like I don't get physically angry because I'm just so used to
Yeah.
hearing this stuff. And
Sure.
I'll tell you what it is for me. I think it's when you work in retail, you have to be able to listen to the same song 100 times a day.
Sure, sure.
And most of the time, those songs are this style of audio
Mhm.
product where they're just so bad. There's been a couple times when I'll recognize a song and be like, why do I know that song? And it played at at my work that
Mhm.
and it would just I was like there was 2 years that I worked at one of the places I worked at, uh, where the quote unquote music soundtrack that you listen to for the day was only 10 songs.
Oh my god.
And it would be 10 songs, but it would change for Christmas and then
I would
back.
jump off a bridge.
Yeah, and they weren't good. The only song I'll remember, the only song that I ever was happy about, and it was Grace Kelly by Minka, which I
Okay.
know you've heard of.
I've
The
never heard of it.
I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky. No, you don't know that song at all?
No.
Wow, okay. Well, it's the only song that's even remotely good from the soundtrack that it was. And it was only because it has like a falsetto part that I would be like,
That
"Oh,
was
okay.
interesting.
Another 41 minutes has passed because I heard the falsetto part."
Right.
And that was how I marked my day.
Sure.
So, I guess it's just over time to take it back here. When songs get like this, I just go into that zone of just like, "Okay, this is bad, but time is passing."
Passing time.
Exactly. And
I
so,
am
like,
getting closer and closer to the sweet release of death.
I just don't get as like naturally mad. But what I'll tell you is this album was really bad.
Mhm.
And I'll take us into The Speed of Now, part 1. And here's what I'll tell you. Uh I was literally terrified by this album cover and nothing else because the album cover is so clearly like it's got this like red, orange, yellow
Mhm.
with like blue, purple
It's an
writing.
interesting color palette.
It's an interesting color palette, and it's got him like standing like at the bottom of the frame, holding his headphone and just like like in depthly listening to something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh no, what are we in for? Then I see that this is not just a country album. It's country R&B pop. and I legitimately considered skipping it
Yeah,
in my for my
yeah, I
heart.
listened to it, and I don't have any opinions on it.
And then I listened to it, and here's what I'll tell you. Based on the fear, this album was great. Based on the initial fear of what it could have been. Because at the end of the day, it's oddly similar to the first two in terms of like, yeah, the genres have changed, but this isn't a
Well,
man who is like grasping at like his youth or
no,
trying
no,
to
no.
appeal to a new crowd.
No,
This
this is
is
a
a
man grasping at whatever happens to be the popular sound right now.
yeah, and doing it averagely. Like these aren't bad. I mean, that he brings in good people, and that's what I will give him credit for, because he brought in Breland and Nile Rodgers for "Out the
Yeah,
Cage,"
sure.
which was the best song on the track because of Breland and Nile Rodgers.
Right. Who was just
And
recently named the 7th greatest guitarist of all time.
yeah, and I'll tell you what,
He is
I
very
get it.
good. He's fantastic.
He's very good. And do you know I read something about Nile Rodgers during my research for this? He's been part of, whether in session or like just like on records,
Oh, I'm
that
sure a
have
million
garnered
things.
over 500 million in sales.
Yeah, oh, I totally believe that.
He's been in he's like got his hands in everything. It's so
That
cool.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep. So awesome to have him on there. Awesome to have Breland. His second song had Pink, which was great, but also maybe a mistake because while Keith Urban's a decent singer, Pink is truly a phenomenal singer, and that is not who you want to compare yourself
Hmm.
to. And after those first two tracks, which got, kind of my hopes up for this album, because I started thinking, wait, is this maybe not an artist as they age choosing to get like younger and younger against their own will, basically musically? And maybe instead, this is an artist finally breaking out and doing what he wants to do based on just the first two tracks. And then the rest of the album was the exact same we've been listening to, pure, just banal nonsense audio product. And that made me actually a little upset because I went from terrified, and then he still got a little bit of hope from me for the first two songs before crushing it. And that's what I got.
Okay. Well, here's what I'll say. The good thing for him, I guess, coming into this is that he co-wrote 3 of these songs with like 5 other people each. So
Yes.
he didn't have too much to do with how terrible these songs were, I guess.
No, he did
I
not.
guess that's a good thing. My positive is that he has some really nice guitar solos that are wasted on pandering garbage songs. And my
Sure.
only other notes, I have 3 of them, and they're all questions. My first question was at the beginning, does he think he's Ed Sheeran now? My
Thank
second,
you.
yeah. My second
Thank
question
you.
was, does he have the capability of doing anything interesting? And my third question was, is he the most inauthentic musician who's ever lived? And the answer to all those questions is, I guess, yes. I hated this album. I hate all of his music. Keith Urban, like, no. Just a big old
Ironically, I'll
no. I
tell
will
you.
never listen to another one of your songs ever again. The only thing that you're involved in that I will ever listen to again is your collaboration with John Mayer to do a live version of "Don't Let Me Down" by the Beatles, because your guitar solo on that is fantastic. But everything else
Yeah,
you've ever
which
done is
I
hot garbage.
okay, all right. I don't know if everything else he's ever done is hot
Okay,
garbage.
well, hold on. Are you ready for this? Because
I'm
I'll
ready.
say this before we even start scoring at the end of the episode. I am petitioning for him to get zeros across the board, and here's the reason why. He did something. He released a single called John
Okay.
Cougar, John Deere, John 316. And anyone who writes that song deserves I didn't even listen to it, but I know that because it exists, he deserves to get all zeros. Please let me give him all zeros. Because if you wrote that song unironically, you don't deserve to have any points.
To be fair, he writes what ChatGPT tells him to write.
I mean,
I mean,
just from the title, I don't have to listen to it to know that it's the worst song ever made.
oh man, that's that's
It's
brutal.
brutal. And
You know I'm gonna listen to that
you know
song
what the
after this
worst
now.
thing is?
Uh-huh.
It went fucking platinum. So there's a
Of course it
million
did.
people who barely have the IQs to, like, tie their
I'm
shoes in the
shocked.
morning listening to that song on purpose.
I'm shocked it only went platinum. You told me that was a diamond single. I'd have said, "Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
di of course it is. 10,000,000?
I
Of course."
I am here, like, I try to be very measured. I try to
Oh,
give
yeah.
the, like, I don't like it, but whatever. Because, at the end of the day, everything on the show is just about my opinion, man. Like, I don't begrudge any of the artists their success. I'm glad that they found it and they've been made a life, out of doing something that they love. Uh, but, like, the people who bought that song and listen to it and enjoy it, you are rubes. You are what's wrong with this world. That's that's my hot
Hold on.
take. If you
I don't
unironically
think
enjoyed the song John Cougar, John Deere, John 316, you are everything that is wrong on the planet Earth. You are the
okay, I
problem.
wanna I wanna tell the
That's my hot
audience
take.
I wanna tell the audience, Nick doesn't mean any of this. What happened is before we started filming, he knocked over his Model
No, no,
UN
no, no,
Lego
no, no.
set,
I mean it. I'm
and
not even mad about that.
he's just so
I'm mad about this
he's
song
distraught about
existing.
that.
I had to take a note that existed.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Oh
Just
man.
end this. End this. I wanna move on to something good.
Well, I'll give you my facts about Keith Urban because there are aplenty. So yeah, so here's the thing. My unique fact about Keith Urban, we kind of already touched on earlier.
Okay.
This is a man who was born in New Zealand, who is credited as an Australian only, who sings American country music,
I mean, country music
and that's just pretty. What?
American country music does sell outside the United States, but only in Canada and Australia. They're the only other 2 countries that like
True.
country music.
It was just so weird. Where are you from, Keith
Yeah, it
Urban?
is strange.
Also, your name, Keith
Well, he's
Urban.
clearly from the city.
Everything about Keith really strikes me as this is a computer generated man.
Yeah, he is.
My
He's not
name
a
is
real
Keith
person.
Urban, and then there was a little bug where he was born in Australia, but he's born in New Zealand, but he's Australian.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then it's like,
Right.
your Sims character. Well, I want to make him a musician. I want to make him a country musician. All of that combined. It's all unique. It's weird.
Yeah.
He's a very unique guy. Highlight. There's multiple things that are highlights.
Oh, did
for
he
Keith
announce that he
Urban.
wasn't releasing music anymore?
No, that would be a highlight for you. This was a
It
highlight
would.
for him.
Okay.
And here's what I'll tell you. Highlight number 1. From his American debut, Keith Urban. He had 8 straight albums certified platinum in the United States. At least platinum. Some of them multi-platinum.
And that's great for him, but boy, does that make me worry about society.
So, I mean, that is definitely a highlight for him in his career. Also, Urban was appointed the Order of Australia at the 2020 Australian Day Honors for distinguished service to the performing arts as a singer and songwriter, and to charitable organizations. So, Order of Australia, that's another big highlight for him. And then the third highlight for him, to relate it to us, Urban was just named the 241st guitarist of all time by Rolling Stone in 2023.
All for that one solo.
Maybe. So, 3 big highlights for him. Low light, yeah. Again, it's a pretty typical low light for us. He is admitted to struggling with both alcoholism and a cocaine addiction. In 1998, right before his American debut, he checked himself into Cumberland Heights. And then once again, he checked into another center in 2006, the Betty Ford Center in California.
She was a great gal.
Yes, and which is the Betty Ford Clinic, I think, is a kind of popular clinic.
Oh, yeah. If you're very, very, very wealthy.
Right. Which, I mean, he was right in the middle of his string of platinums. He was pretty wealthy at the time.
I'm sure.
So that's it. So he then completed rehab in 2007, and seems to have not fallen off the wagon publicly since.
Okay. Good.
The nicest thing that I saw Keith Urban do is in October of 2013, he announced that he would be selling a line of signature guitars and accessories to guitars through the Home Shopping Network. And then did that, resulting in over 42,000 sales. And a portion of the proceeds of each of those sold went to the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation and the Grammy Foundation.
Okay.
So,
Very
you
good.
know, we'll give that to him.
We'll take it. We'll take charity.
Yeah. Now, the meanest thing he ever did is so strange because it's just so weird to me. In 2007, he filed a lawsuit against a typical painter from New Jersey because he has the same name as him. And he had a website that was keithurban.com. And so he just straight up sued the guy and then lost because the guy countersued and he won that.
If the guy's name is Keith Urban, why can't he have that website,
You're right. But here's what I'll tell you. A little, after effect in 2007. So the lawsuit was settled in the painter's favor.
Yeah, as it should have been.
But if you go to Keith Urban on Wikipedia, his website is keithurban.com now.
So hopefully he bought it off the painter, gave him even more money.
Why wasn't that the first thing? That's why it's the meanest thing.
I don't
because
get it.
it's
Like, why don't
super
you just say,
common to
like,
buy.
hey, I really want that domain name. Here's
You're rich.
$50,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure Keith Urban would have taken it and switched to like keithurban.org.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd have been fine.
keithurban.net.
Or like even the other keithurban.com would have been fine.
Sure. Or Keith Urban Paints.
Yeah. He might still get accidental clicks on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're down to the last category, the 6 degrees here.
Yeah.
And now here's what I'll tell you. I have one that's 6 degrees of Totem Talk. And then I have one that's like a 20 million degrees of Totem Talk.
Okay.
Which one are you interested in hearing?
20 million degrees, obviously.
Good. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I will tell you the little one first, because actually this is a little interesting. On his album Golden Road, which we did not listen to.
Thank Christ.
But this will show you how deep I had to go to find one before I found the big one. The bassist for that is a man called Glenn Worf, who regularly tours with another man called Mark Knopfler, who was in Dire Straits, who we covered.
Fair enough. Matt Chamberlain was on that record too. I'm looking up on. He
played
on that record.
Yeah, but I found Glenn Worf and was like,
fair enough.
I was
need so many.
Yeah. So here's the next one. Keith Urban in 2006 married an actress, Nicole Kidman.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, A-list celebrity, super famous. Used to be married to Tom Cruise. It was a whole thing.
That's right.
Yes. Now, I was like, I'll find a 6 degrees with Nicole Kidman. And I did. I found one with her. In 2001, she was in a live album / benefit concert / telethon called America, a tribute to heroes, which came out on September 21st, 2001.
Sure.
So it was about 9/11. It was to raise money and mourn the victims of 9/11.
Sure.
Some other notable artists, and these are just the artists that pertain to us. This is not the entire list.
Right.
U2, Neil Young, Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit.
Oh, God, why'd they let him?
The Chicks, John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi, Sheryl Crow, Eddie Vedder, specifically from Temple of the Dog for us, because we haven't yet done Pearl Jam. Paul Simon, Celine Dion, Willie Nelson, and Clint Eastwood. All were involved in that benefit concert as performers, and Clint Eastwood was one of the presenters, not a performer. Love it.
I'm going to say one thing.
So there we go.
And then we're going to move on. And my thing is, on Keith Urban's discography page on Wikipedia, the picture of him is of him playing a bass. I don't know why.
That's
not the instrument he's famous for. but okay.
That is
All
so
right.
meticulously specific of you,
I don't
and the
know why. I
pettiness.
just saw it and I'm like, huh, that's a bass. Um,
I live for petty and angry Nick. It's so
oh,
rare.
he'll be gone in a minute. In fact, let's stop right now and move on to Corey Wong. All my anger is dissipating. But boy, did listening to Keith Urban make me fucking mad. It's
Yeah,
this,
no,
you
I
know what
get
it
you.
is? It's the Disturbed thing.
What's going
It's the
on,
same
Blink,
thing.
if you're a real person?
Yeah.
I
It's
can't
like
tell anymore who's
it's
real and who's a
fine
doll.
if you like if you just make the same most generic, bland, vanilla song after song. Like there's if you never do a single
Keith Urban
interesting
does
thing
suck, Blink, hell
in your
yeah.
fucking life. Like, that's what makes me even more upset than, like, music that's shitty to listen to. Like, I'd rather listen to someone who has an artistic vision and, like, it just doesn't sound good, but they're, like, trying to do something that's honest and real in art than
Yeah.
listen to the same vanilla bullshit that was generated on a fucking computer.
I mean,
Like,
you're not talking crazy to me. You know I
yeah.
agree with you on that.
All right.
It's gonna be crazy when he
Whew.
wins.
Well, he's definitely gonna win the first 2 categories, but
We'll
he's not
see.
gonna win the other 3 if
Yeah,
I
we'll
have
see.
anything to say about it.
Oh, and you do. You have
Yeah,
roughly
I do.
50% to say about
Yeah.
it.
All right, you tell me when we're back on to start the second half.
Give me uno momento. I'm almost ready.
Let's see.
All right. Our upcoming. Here we go.
Yeah, now we get to talk about real music.
Hey, by the
Okay,
textbook
here.
definition.
Yes. So just to answer Blink's question real quick before we start up
Yeah.
with recording again. So yeah, essentially every week we pick 2 different artists. For the first couple seasons, we did 3 different artists. We listened to their first record, their most recent record, or last if they're, if they've died or retired or whatever. And then whatever album in the middle was the most popular, sold the most albums. And then we review them, compare the artists, like kind of give them grades and put it into our overall spreadsheet. And our goal
Yep.
is to review and grade, according to our little formula that we have, every artist who's ever put out music in like the rock pop sphere.
Yeah, exactly. It is a podcast where we live stream our recording of it, and then all of the episodes are available if you look up Totem Talks, and
Exactly.
it'll tell you who we covered and when.
Nice. I'm glad somebody besides the 2 of us likes the concept after 3 years.
Right? And also hates Keith Urban.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
geez, a new best friend alert. All right, I think I'm ready to go with Corey
Cool.
Wong here.
All right, so I'm gonna hit unpause in 3, 2, 1.
Corey Wong is an American guitarist, songwriter, and producer based in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's right.
And we covered 3 albums. Well, we started with Corey Wong and the Green Screen Band, which came out in 2017. So, a recent addition to the list here. We followed that up with Motivational Music for the Syncopated Soul from 2019. And then we closed things out with The Lucky One, which came out just a couple of months ago,
very recently.
August 2023. And
it's my thing.
your artist, you get to go first, bud.
So I'll start by saying, like, I'm a big Corey Wong fan. He's one of my favorite artists. I listen to all of his records all the time. I saw him earlier this year. One of the best concert experiences I've ever had in my entire life. This first record is like a glimpse, I think. His first record is like the promise of things to come. It's good and I really like it, and there's some great moments on here. It's not the one I go back to as frequently because he hasn't fully developed his sound yet at this point. He's also like very few collaborative songs. Like one of his big things is he likes to work with as many other artists as possible and write songs with them. And so he'll usually have at least like 4 or 5 different people featured on his records. And he's had some like pretty big artists come in and collab with him, which we'll get to later. But the funk is established pretty early on this record. You do get good contrasts with a song like Rubens. It's like rooted in funk, but it's lighter. It's more melodic and harmonic before it kind of goes to a funkier B section, which is nice. And then there's the song McKinney, which shows that he has some really good acoustic chops on the guitar as well. And the compositions are solid here. You know, he's going to grow, but at his worst, I think he's still composing at a high level. These funk songs, but Restoration is probably the best song on the record, in my opinion. And that's all.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I've probably can name, or I could probably count on one hand the amount of Corey Wong songs I'd heard before today.
Sure.
And by today, I mean this week's
The week of listening, yeah.
So I knew of Corey Wong. I've talked to you about Corey Wong.
Yeah,
You've told me
if you
about
spend
Corey
enough time
Wong.
around me.
Right. So his name and style wasn't really a surprise to me. I'll tell you from this first album, based on your descriptions to me, it felt much more like samey than I was expecting. As in, like, even though on a song by song basis, like genre, it could be a little different. Tonally, it could be a little different. The part that was the same to me was like the way he played the guitar.
Sure.
Which was not like a negative. Like I wasn't like upset about it, but it was definitely like I was expecting more difference in depth on a song by song basis based on your descriptions to me.
Sure.
Now, it was still the third best album I listened to this week. To be clear.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed listening to it. Antoine Stanley is a very good singer.
Oh yeah.
Who sings on a couple tracks throughout this. So really good stuff from him.
Frequent collaborator.
Good. I mean, that's exciting to hear because a lot of talent there. And as far as, you know, the rest of it goes, it's a really well done and fun album with interesting moments. And I would have assumed what you said, which is it's the beginning here and he's going to build.
It's a jumping off point
based on what I know. Yeah. It's a jumping off point, but it's not exactly the here I am moment. It's not the spotlight moment for him, but it's a good beginning. And so we'll get into motivational music for the Syncopated Soul. And I think we're getting much closer here to the arrival that we're looking for. These tracks are really strong and really different and unique all the way through the album. There's funk, but there's also like really nice mixtures of R&B. There's always a little bit of jazziness involved with funk when it's done right.
Oh, yeah.
And you get that same thing here. And you get a song which I was so overwhelmingly happy with because...
Can I guess which one you're about to say?
Of course you're going to guess. You already know.
Is it Today I'm Going to Get Myself a Real Job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
It's one of the, I think, 2 actual Corey Wong vocals that exist.
And that's what, and I could tell right away because it's not a great vocal. I mean, he's an okay singer. He obviously can carry a melody. He gets by with it. But it was so genuine.
Exactly.
Because it was him singing it and he wrote it and it felt so real.
It had to be him.
And related to real life experience. And it honestly made me like kind of upset that he doesn't do vocals that more often based on how authentic his lyric writing is. Because he doesn't really contribute lyrically when he collabs with people. They contribute,
Right.
and he contributes the music. That's their the back and forth.
Sure.
So it was really frustrating to like hear this and be like, but his lyric writing has such depth to it.
Yeah.
I would love to get to experience that more. But this is where you're starting to get what you said with collaborations. Emily C. Browning, phenomenal voice on her and starting line. And throughout, you're getting really good stuff. So you're getting vocals by Caleb Hawley. You're getting different sounds. And the way that he chooses to collaborate, which is, they provide some stuff and then he provides some stuff. It creates a lot of diversity that is really enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll be quick because you covered a lot. I think first things first, the difference that getting 2 albums under his belt before this one is clear. The music is fuller, it's more confident. 100%.
Sure.
You've got some very cool things. Like you said, the collaborations are great. What I really like is something he chooses to leave in from time to time. If there's a really tight take of the song and he knows that they nailed it, you can get that couple seconds right after the song of like, oh yeah, like him getting
Yeah.
really genuinely excited about it, which is how you know it's being recorded live. Because like it's like that's the take, and then he's reacting right in the moment with that excitement. And I like that they leave it in there.
I always feel like with this genre, like funk, jazz, that like syncopated genre with like these rhythms and changes and harmonies, it's almost harder to not do it live, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. It
Like I
feels
feel
just
like I would
tighter
almost
with the band.
be, yeah, like, and this is not to take away at all. Like I want
Oh
to say
no.
that. But if somebody were to tell me an album like this good wasn't recorded live and was instead recorded
I
split
hear you.
and still had the
Yeah.
feel
There's so
and
much
like,
energy of like a
right, the
live group
energy, like
playing
I would
together.
be more impressed.
Yeah, I
I
get you.
would be like, I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, that's fair. The only other song I'll highlight, because you already mentioned today, I'm gonna get myself a real job, is Home, which is another one of those like change up from the funky feeling songs that like just has some of the best instrumental storytelling, um,
Yeah.
or like emotional stuff coming out of the guitar. So really awesome. And I'm gonna move on to the Lucky One, which is his super new album.
Oh, I just heard the
Um,
lucky one. Oh well.
and it's got a lot of energy here. You get a great collaboration with our friend of the podcast, Alan Stone, um, who I absolutely love. You get some really good versatility here from song to song. Again, like we mentioned, his, the amount of different artists he's willing to collaborate with, you just get like a ton of different feels. And it just keeps the album very fresh. He's got, here's the, like Corey Wong in the guitar community, you can say Corey Wong and everyone's like, he's one of the best rhythm guitar players like ever. Like
Sure.
the dude has his right wrist is going to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like his what he's able to do rhythmically is something that very few people are able to do. But he has a couple opportunities on this record to show off his solo chops, and he's a really good soloist too. Like, and especially from having seen him live and listened to some of his live records as well. Like he doesn't go for like the straight up solo playing or lead playing a lot, but when he does, whew, he nails it. Like he's really good. He's got a great ear for phrasing, and pacing in his solos. Like it's really well done. Acceptance is another really great like emotional instrumental piece. It's got great tone, feel, and phrasing, just like everything for it. Like he's got great tone. Um, yeah, I mean, a very strong record, which this is my second time hearing it, was for the podcast because I listened to it, right when it first came out. And I was excited
Sure.
for a new Wong album.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'll say. Before we get too far into it, I want to harken back to something you said because I feel like it's something that is more common than is talked about with in this genre. Like, I don't think of Corey Wong as like a solo artist, right?
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
sure you don't really either. Like, I think of him as a band leader
Yes,
who
and he's
uses
definitely
different
a
band.
band leader.
Right, he's a band leader, and so when I think of somebody in that mindset, everything you said makes so much more sense because most band leaders that I know of, like famous ones, don't regularly solo. It's more about showing off the people they brought with
Mhm.
them, and, like, it's usually, in the jazz world, a lot of it's standards, but instead of that, like, in the world like this, you're getting, like, "Well, I worked with these people to create this song, and, like, it was my idea as the
Mhm.
band leader, and so I wanna show off the idea." And so it's
Yeah.
never about the playing for Corey Wong. Like, it's about the playing in terms of he wants the playing to be
Oh, yeah.
good.
It's gotta be right on tight, but it's gotta be tight
Right.
together
Yeah, so,
on a really good
that's definitely
arrangement.
the vibe that I get from him and his
Yeah.
music.
I will say that especially with this last album, I think that his last 4 or so have been with his band, The Wong Notes.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that you definitely there's a difference here, from the first 2 albums with, like, the Wong Notes being established as the band
Sure.
that's playing on these records, and they are I mean, everyone in that group is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. It's always interesting, right? Because there are certain genres we had this discussion a lot throughout the podcast history about prog,
Sure.
because we don't really get into the jazz world too often
Right. Not until one of
on
these half
purpose.
seasons someday. Yeah,
Sure, but
because jazz would, like, really
there's
change the way that we approached instrumental talent
it would
at
force a curve.
large. Yeah, it would
Right,
be a
and
big
that was
curve.
the issue I had with prog.
Mhm.
We had to really talk about that because, like, to play prog well, to play good prog
Just
well,
straight up
you have
requires
to just be
more
right,
talent.
and more showcasing of your talent, and that so, like, by its very nature, it's scoring higher on all the things, and the prog
Yeah,
bands are winning, and it's like, "Hey, we gotta figure that out because, like, it needs to be fair." And
sure.
that's just that's not a fair comparison.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're in the same boat here. Like, I know we're comparing guitarists.
Yeah, but the band here is just, like, another world.
Yeah, like the genre of music that Corey Wong plays with that like funk jazz R&B is just by its very nature so much more difficult than
To do
Keith Urban
well, yeah.
stuff. Like, so we're gonna get into some discussion there when we start the grading
Yeah.
process. But I'll tell you, The Lucky One was probably my favorite of the 3 albums,
Mhm.
full through. Of
Yeah.
course, my favorite song we already talked about,
Yeah.
uh, which was far and away my favorite song I listened to the whole time, and, I do the bit where I wanted to sing a song in the beginning.
Mhm.
I
Today you're gonna get
purposely
yourself a
didn't s
podcast.
I purposely didn't sing that one because, like, it's so good in its form, and
Mhm.
I wanted to just talk about it, like, earnestly
Sure.
rather than, pun it. And
Mhm.
there was no other song I listened to that was as
That you
memorable
would
to
have
me,
remembered, yeah.
especially not from either, but, uh, so yeah, Lucky One, great album, fun listen. Really enjoyed listening to Corey Wong, and I'll tell you, Corey Wong did something that I say is rare, but has definitely started happening more and more. I think you have like Stockholm syndromed me into it, where it's a lot of instrumental stuff, but I was enjoying it.
Yeah.
The only difference is like I still miss lyrics.
Sure.
Like I still want there to be lyrics, and like
Mhm.
when there's lyrics, I do a much more active listen.
Sure.
But
Especially if
uh
Alan Stone's singing some of 'em.
especially if Alan Stone's singing them, which was right in your face. I mean, he comes in
Right.
hot on that
He does.
vocal, and you're like, "Oh, hey, Alan, hello, how are we doing today?" But that's what I've got. So give us your Corey Wong facts, please.
Sure. Okay, so here's what's unique about him.
Sure.
So his first album that we talked about came out 6 years ago. In that span, he has released 11 Corey Wong studio albums, 2 Corey Wong quartet albums, 4 collaboration albums with artists like John Batiste and Dave Cuz, 11 official live albums, as well as 4 albums with his side project Fearless Flyers, which is a combination of Wolfpack and Snarky Puppy. And he's played on all the Wolfpack albums in that time as well. So this dude has like his discography is like 40 albums long in like 6 years. I don't know
It's
how he does it.
it's like ridiculous.
And it's all quality too. Like, how do you
Yeah.
have like it's not bad. Like there aren't just like albums where you're like, oh, but that one wasn't good.
I mean, the live albums, I can understand
Yeah,
having a bunch
sure.
of them
Hmm.
because, like, any performance can become a live album if you
Absolutely.
wanted to.
Right.
But I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
I don't know when he sleeps.
Exactly.
I don't know when
Especially he's
he
touring all the time too. So like how's
yeah.
he doing that? And I mean, also he has a podcast and also he did like multiple seasons of a variety show on YouTube. Like he's been involved in so much. I don't think he ever stops working. So,
Seriously. I mean,
yeah,
it's impressive.
it is. It's crazy. My 6 degrees, I'm going to go with a couple of the members of the Wong Notes, including probably most famously his bassist Sonny T. All played with Prince. They were part of Prince's band throughout the 90s.
Nice.
And now are members of the Wong Notes with Corey, which should show you like the esteem within other musicians hold him. But he's also done a bunch of collaborations with Alan Stone, OAR, and then Chris Thiele. There's another one that I hope you listened to that today that I sent you,
I
Bluebird.
did.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
of course.
Yeah. For career highlights, I had a couple things. He did put out a record with Metropole Orkest, which is the national orchestra of the Netherlands. It's a really cool album. He was also nominated for a Grammy for his album Meditations, which was a collaboration with John Batiste, who was also famous for doing that one like really big Disney Pixar movie that happened with jazz music in New Orleans. Was it called
Oh,
Soul or
yeah.
something? Yeah,
Yeah.
John Batiste wrote the music for
Yep.
that, and he also did this album with Corey Wong. And also in 2021, Fender released the Corey Wong Signature Stratocaster. So to have your own signature guitar, I think is a pretty big accomplishment.
Sure.
For low late, it's tough. I mean, like obviously he's working on kind of the fringes of the music world in terms of mainstream popularity, but he is very popular with what he does. Like amongst musicians, he's very popular. Amongst guitarists, he's very popular and very well respected. He like continues to just grind. The only thing I could think of is he's released 2 seasons of a variety show called Corey and the Wong Notes on YouTube, which is fantastic, and I recommend that everybody watch it. But he actually yesterday, funnily enough, had an AMA on Reddit, and so I was just like looking around for any extra things that I might find to help be a low light.
Sure.
Um, and I was like, oh my god, he's doing an Ask Me Anything right now. And so one thing he mentioned was that budget wise, there's not really a future in sight for season 3 of Corey and the Wong Notes. So I'm going to call that a low light.
Okay. Okay. All
And as
right.
far as meanest or nicest, I mean, I couldn't find anything. I read a bunch of interviews. All I can say is he seems like the most genuinely wonderful person in the world based on all of his responses to everything in interviews and to other people on Reddit. Like, he seems like a very, very wonderful guy. That's all I can tell you is he's a very genuine human being with love for everyone.
Okay. I mean,
That's all I got.
if that's what you got, that's what you got. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fault you for it. I
I
think
struggled to
Nick,
get there.
we we're down to it, man. We're down
All right,
to
let's do it. Let's grade him.
our grading system.
All right. Keith Urban's more famous than Corey Wong. He's going to get higher score
Keith
for
Urban
the.
is incredibly more famous.
He's going to get more points for cultural impact.
Yes, he is. I'm sorry. He's going to. He's
Oh yeah.
a household name. Obviously, through selling in music, he's far and away more popular in that front. High profile marriage to an A-list celebrity also invokes
I had no idea that
cultural
that was the
impact.
case for the record.
Sure, but you don't really. There are people that follow these things,
Yeah, just the same way
and
I follow things like Corey Wong.
sure, 100%, and that's what I mean. Like that adds to his popularity.
Yeah,
All of
I mean,
those things.
give the man an above average score.
for sure above average, because I haven't even brought in the fact that he was a judge for multiple seasons of American Idol,
Never would have
multiple
known.
seasons of The Voice Australia.
Never
So
would have
like
known.
prominent in TV. He's a
He
very
runs in
well
every
known
circle that I don't,
household
I
name.
guess.
True,
Yeah,
I'm with you on that, but that's why a lot of people know who he is.
sure,
I think he's probably a 6.
sure. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah. Corey Wong, you
He's
can
under
feel
one.
free to. Yeah, I was
Look,
like, you can
he's
feel
under
free to
one.
argue me a
All
score
I can
because
say,
it's low.
is he's not a 0.1 because he's extremely popular within the guitar community and the funk community.
Sure.
He plays with Wolfpack, who are also like really huge in that community. But like if you're like going to college for music around this time or in the 2010s, then Wolfpack was
Yeah.
a big thing.
100%.
And that's
I
about
know
it.
who
Like, and
Wolfpack is, and that'll tell you.
he has his own signature strat, which is definitely an accomplishment. It's definitely something. But all that is just to get me somewhere in the point somethings, maybe like a 0.5 to 0.7 range.
0.6 it is then. I'm okay with that.
All right. Both of them are starting at a 5.8 for Breadth of Work.
Okay.
Keith Urban's sold a lot of records.
He sold a lot of records. You're probably going to have to give him a little bit of a bump for records. Less than a half point. I don't think he's up to 50 million. He might be close to 50 million.
Yeah, probably.
With his singles as well, actually, now that I think about it. He's going to have to get some bumped points here. And then I know some of that will get canceled out, but
yeah, let's see. Bestsellingalbums.org has albums 4.5, 3, 2, 1.3, 1.1, 1.1, 1.1, 1.1. So like millions and millions.
Yeah. And that's just his albums. When you talk about records sold, you also include singles. And we talked about multiples of his singles also going platinum.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with probably at least a 6.2 because that's 0.4 above. I would be okay with the 6.3.
I'd say we start him at the 6.3. I think that's the fairest thing we can do.
What are you going to do about his score in terms of quality?
Here's the thing, right? It's middle of the road. It's blasé, it's banal, it's very audio product-esque. And I'm taking away points.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. I'm
that's the only right answer.
Holding no bones about that. I'm taking away points. For me, the vocals are good on it and he's performing that. The guitars are good on that and he's performing that. So like the parts that he is performing in the albums are good and are solid and are above average, quite frankly.
Okay.
It's just the rest of it that's so far below average. So I'm going to take away a 0.2.
That's very nice.
I think the rest of it is
and for you've talked me into only taking away a 0.3.
Sure.
So he's back.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Right.
All right. So Corey Wong starts with that with his credits. Sold not as many, not enough, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, his albums chart on the jazz charts. I mean, but that's about it. I mean, like it's not a thing that everyone's out there buying. So he's going to lose
just to maybe refresh memories here, or as we're going through this.
Yeah.
We're talking about we consider the average for albums released for most of the artists that we cover, and we average it out to be like 6 albums.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're below that, you're graded below that. If you're above that, you're graded above that. And these artists both are well above the 6 album threshold. So they're starting not at a 5 out of 10,
but a 5.8,
but a 5.8 out of 10. And we do consider other factors. So with Keith Urban, we gave him a bonus because he had sold so many millions of records.
And then we each have a half a point to play with.
Correct. To either add or subtract, whether we really like or dislike. And for Corey Wong, kind of the opposite's going to happen, I think, here, where he's starting at a 5.8, realistically, based on albums sold, probably going to lose a chunk of that.
About a half point, right?
I think a half point. I think we gave the half point to Keith Urban, and we're taking away the half point from
I
Corey
think
Wong.
that's reasonable,
Yeah.
but we
And
can give
then,
him something back.
yeah, I think we do. I think we give him something back here because I think the first album was good.
Mhm.
And if all three albums were like that, I probably would either keep them the same or give them a point one. But they got so much better after that, and they were stronger with the varying and the collaboration and like the talent involved and all that stuff. I'm gonna give him a point three.
That's I think a fair place to go. I'm gonna give him a point 4. And
Yeah,
the only reason I don't go higher, like for me to give a full point 5, I feel like an artist has to be hands down in my like top 10 ever. And Corey is more like in that top 20-ish range. So he's
understood.
like one of the higher point 4s that we'll give on the show.
I'm with you. I get it. So that's a point seven added onto his score, which puts him right at a
At a point
six.
right at a 6 flat, exactly.
Sounds good to me. I
All
can
right,
math in my head. I'm good at it.
that's good. Instrumental talent. Look, we've already said what Keith Urban's capable of doing is above average for sure.
Yeah.
Um, everything is executed well on his albums. If
You
anything
can't
stands
lower
out,
the score here for instrumental talent,
exactly.
unfortunately.
If anything stands out on his records at all, those moments are usually him on guitar. Um, so you got to give some credit there. If there's
Yeah,
anything worth listening to, it's his guitar playing.
sure. I think you're talking like vocals, he's probably like a 5.2, 5.3, a little bit above average.
He's better than average.
And as a guitar player, he's probably,
Yeah,
I would say, well in the what we heard on the albums, well in the sixes.
sure. Yeah, I don't have any issue with that.
And I mean, I know he's capable of more than that. We've both heard him do capable.
Hmm.
We've heard him do more than that, but we got to go with what we listened to and what he's recorded.
Hmm.
I think giving him anywhere from like a 5.9 to a 6.1.
Sure. I'm gonna give him the 6. I'm okay with it.
Sure. Okay.
Instrumental Town is better for Corey Wong.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the instrumental talent
Yeah.
is better for Corey Wong.
The band is better.
Vocally, yeah, we're
Yeah,
talking vocally. This is a guy who, if we gave Keith Urban a 5.2, we'd probably be giving Corey Wong like a 4.7. He's a little below
sure.
average.
But we're giving him a higher score as a guitarist, and
Correct.
that's I mean, it's you can't debate it. I mean, you
I'm
can
not trying
debate
to.
no one is like there's not a clear answer. You're not like he is a guitar virtuoso, this or that. Like he's excellent though. I mean, and I think the thing that's really key for him here is like his whole approach to playing the instrument is so different from anything that anyone else does. Like it's so
Unique
rare
factor does
that in
count.
the
Yeah.
2010s and 2020s, there's this artist who's taking this instrument that has been probably the most mainstream instrument to be in music over the course of the 70 years prior to that,
Yeah.
and playing it in a way that no one has ever really been playing it before. And not only that, but like technically in terms of his actual skills, excellent.
I agree. Now, let's quantify that. Let's give it some numbers here. What are we
Yeah.
thinking?
I mean, I think if we were looking at just maybe his first 2 or 3 albums, it would be a number closer to where Keith Urban was, but we do get better and better and better as
Yeah,
the albums grow. So we're starting in that, like, 6 range, and we're getting closer. By the time, like, the Wong notes are cooking together on those last 3 or 4 albums, we're
sure.
talking an extremely high score. We're talking about the high 8s into the 9s easily because of the talent, in that band as a whole.
I understand.
So I think that's gotta pull the average up into at least around a 7.
I honestly would be totally fine with a 7. I think that's fair. I think that covers the expanse of the career. And I think you're saying that this is a guy who started in the 6s probably and
Mhm.
is currently
And grew and
sitting
grew and grew.
closer to the 9s, and we're kinda yeah, I'm fine with that.
Mhm. Yep. And then we have songwriting talent. So here's Keith Urban does 2 things. He plays songs that he didn't write on his albums, and he plays the most generic bullshit vanilla songs ever. And here's the thing, writing exactly to the mean being the most average singer in the world will get you a 5 in instrumental
It
talent.
doesn't get you a
Being the
5.
most average, right to the mean,
Yeah.
no art songwriter is gonna get you way below that. So
Right. And the only thing that's redeeming in here is a little bit of the redemption. It's clearly the what his audience wants to hear.
sure.
It's
I'll
not
tell
gonna
you,
give him a
yeah,
ton of points.
no.
I'm not trying to
The
argue up
highest number I
anything.
could have starts with a 3.
And I think I was honestly that's fair for me. That's where I'd want to go. I'm thinking right around a 3.5.
That's fine.
I
I
think
won't
that's a
argue with
fair
that.
point. I think
Yeah.
it's below average, but it's successful as hell.
Yeah.
Whereas we've had artists who are neither successful or good at songwriting.
That's true.
So
Those things might tie together somehow.
yeah, you
Uh,
think.
yes. And look, honestly, for Corey Wong, I feel very similar to how I felt about his instrumental talent. I think it's something that you get on the first albums as clearly as an arranger and writer of music. This guy's already probably better than the average. And then by the time you get to his most recent work with the Wong notes and like, he's writing horn arrangements and stuff like that, putting it all together. We're talking about someone who is really nailing it on a songwriting basis. And the fact that he does it for 11 studio albums in 6 years with increasing quality instead of like
Yeah.
stagnating or decreasing quality because of how much music is being written, like I'm again at least at around a 7.
Okay. Okay. I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate
Go
here.
ahead.
I'm just trying to offer an alternate viewpoint here.
Mhm.
Corey Wong is a person well known for collaborating,
Mhm.
well known for working with other artists on his stuff.
Of course.
So, if we're talking about Corey Wong as a performer, what do we like? How much do we consider other people are actively contributing to the songs?
And that's
Because
fair.
I just want
No.
to say,
Yeah, no.
we dock points regularly
Mhm.
when like pop artists have like 3 or 4 writers on a song and things
Yes,
like that. Just the
but
number of writers does a
that's
lot of
yes,
times contribute.
and my response to that is, of course, that's a different thing. Being the musical queen of England, just a figurehead to spit out somebody else's stuff, like no
Mhm.
real power
The
over the
king of
music.
England now.
Yeah, the king, right. That's one thing. Like when we talk about that with pop artists, it's they have no input on what the song is. They're just like, here, sing this, and they sing that.
I understand.
Corey Wong is actively writing the music for these songs in collaboration with other artists. I think taking a lot of points from that away would be like, well, you can't give the Beatles a lot of points because Paul was writing those songs with John and George.
Well, I I think that's
I
I'm not against your
unfortunately,
argument, but I think that's a little strong because 'cause they're
it's
members of the band.
right, but I don't think it's like he, there's nothing taking away from what he is contributing as a songwriter. He's just collaborating with another artist as someone who is writing songs with that artist versus being a mouthpiece for what other people are writing are very different
I
things.
I fully agree that it's different. I'm not arguing for a, like, same treatment.
Of course.
I'm saying, like,
I understand that
do we
there's a
take
middle
any
ground that
parts of it
exists.
away?
I'm okay with there being a continuum on this, but I'm just saying Corey Wong on that continuum is way, way, way closer to the band than he is to the mouthpiece for the
100%.
record company's writers.
You and I are fully agreeing on that. like, again, I'm just looking at the way
Yeah.
we've treated
No, that's fine.
similar cases
And
before,
that's fine, but I'm just like, if you look at
you know?
the amount if of work, if you
Yeah.
look at the quality of the work, if you look at the arrangements within each song, if you look at the
Mhm.
variety of genres being incorporated onto each album, honestly, I don't know why I even only said a 7.
I'll tell you, it's the variety one
Because he
that's
checks every
I'm
single
questioning a little
box.
bit. Right,
I
he
mean, he's a
does.
funk artist and funk is
No,
incorporated, but he's also released 2 folk albums. He's incorporated influences from bluegrass and jazz and rock and pop and
I
blues.
Nick, you're needlessly defending right now.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not arguing with you. What I'm saying is the variety part of it is specifically to me as a first time listener to almost all of these songs,
Mhm.
probably all of these songs, realistically,
Yeah.
the variety part of it is the collaboration part of it. It almost
Sure.
feels like
Okay.
because
Yeah.
he's collaborating with different people, it's forcing him to be a different genre. So I'm saying like when that happens in other genres,
Mhm.
we're very negative about it in terms
Sh
of like, and
Right,
I
right,
don't
right.
think we should be negative here,
No. And I'll
but
say
I'm
this, I
saying
mean,
like
I know it's all formula, but did you listen to that record, his folk record I sent you today?
I did. And
He
it was
has what,
very good. It was so
2
strong.
co-written songs?
Yeah.
Obviously, he, like, arranges and writes incredibly well in a totally different genre
Yeah.
of songs that he's mostly writing himself
Again,
and sometimes collaborating with
I'm
other
not looking to
musicians on.
take away points here. Like I'm not looking to say like, well,
Mhm.
you want to
No,
give him a
I
7
understand. No,
because of that.
it's the right discussion to have.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that despite that, he checks every single box we look for in songwriting, so it would be impossible to give him a not really good score.
No, he deserves a really good score. 100%. I'm saying does part of that score is his score a little lower than probably than somebody else because of collaborating as much as he
I
does
think that you
or
can make
not
a
because this
fractional
sets a
argument
precedent.
there. I think you can make a fractional argument there. I think Corey is very, very unique in this aspect in terms of being a not pop artist, one of those mouthpiece artists talk
Sure.
about that does this very, very regularly on every album.
Yeah, I mean,
He's pretty
we've
like
had like
this is
one
a
or two albums
unique
of
case.
this before. Sure.
Yeah,
But it does set a precedent and if we run
sure.
into it again,
And I think it's
it'll be
totally
nice to
fine to
have.
take away fractional points for it, but I still think
Sure.
that has to leave him around a 7 at the least.
I think the final score of a 7 is perfect. I'm not taking
Okay.
that away. I'm saying like we're definitely both saying this is somebody who may have the potential to grow and grow and grow in
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
And I think that like Corey Wong say he comes out with another 20 albums of this quality
Mhm.
and continues his level of collaboration. This might be somebody who just won't hit a 10
Yeah.
because parts of it will be docked a little bit at a time
Mhm.
for the amount of other people he brings in
Mhm.
to create. And that's not even like we both really enjoy the listening to that.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep it fair for
Totally fine.
our opinions lining up.
Totally fine. Let's do this last category. Look, poetic's not getting any better for Keith Urban. I think it's only getting worse.
Poetic is
Because it's the same thing, but it's even worse with the words than it is with the music. Because at least the music is still pleasant to listen to, even if it's boring and vanilla.
yeah, I structurally I have no problem with Keith Urban's stuff. In terms of that, I mean like a lot of country artists they do this weird ass thing where they like fake rhyme, where
Okay.
they rhyme things that don't rhyme. So he doesn't do that.
Like when you have like a very obviously American South accent, even though you're Australian.
Sure. I mean that is
That'll happen
definitely
when you do that.
something. That's definitely part of it. I'm just saying like that part's fine. The subject matter is so boring and so obvious. It never for 1 second surprised me in any way.
Can I tell you something?
And yeah, go ahead.
I hate to interrupt you,
No,
but
go
I've
ahead.
got 5 words and 2 numbers for you.
Okay,
Do you
okay.
know what they are?
I would I
John Cougar, John Deere, John 316,
again,
0.
again, again, I'm with you. And I'm not arguing for a high score here at all. I'm saying lyrically it's very middle of the road as everything else has been. And it's not offensively bad. I think a
Sure.
score in like if we gave a 3.5 for the music,
Mhm.
I think like a 3.3, three
Okay.
two.
3-2.
I 3.2 is fine.
Yeah.
And I want to stress I did not enjoy listening to this.
No.
I'm just trying to say like because nothing was offensive, like I have no reason to take away a ton of points for the lyrics being like offensively bad because they're just like milk toast. And I'm taking points away because of pandering. Because honestly, these lyrics are so milk toast, they're average to me.
Hmm.
They're just so average. There's nothing bad because there's nothing risky.
Yeah, I mean, at
But I
some
will take
point
away points for the
at some point,
pandering.
I would prefer you to just end up being really, really bad because you tried to be unique in
Sure. Oh,
yourself, as
sure.
opposed to, "Huh, what would be the most bland, inoffensive word that any human being could ever even think of to write?"
It's a weird Australian accent. I didn't
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
pick up
well,
on it. Very subtle.
hold on, let me do my Australian accent.
Your
Hello,
Keith
I'm
Urban
from
Australian
Australia.
accent.
My name is Keith Urban, and I'm from Australia.
He does speak with an
Eh,
Australian accent.
go figure.
Yeah, it's all weird.
All right. Look,
But yeah, that's
let's
the
finish
score. A
this up.
3-2 is great.
Corey Wong. Half of his stuff is instrumental. About half, I would
Yes.
say, is a fair number. So we could say he has about 5.5 records worth of actual vocals. A little under the average. He's also collaborating with these other artists for lyrics a lot more.
And this is the scary category for me for Corey
Yeah.
Wong. And that's the reason I wanted to start talking about the collaborations
Hmm.
in the last category. He very rarely contributes the lyrics. They're
Correct.
often contributed by outside artists
Right.
who then come in and sing them.
Hmm. Now, there's an interesting comparison from season 1 that we have here.
And I'm ready for it. We've set a precedent.
It's Elton
And
John.
the
Bernie
the
Taupin earned him an 8 for poetic talent.
and the my counter argument is in that episode, the argument was he was only getting Bernie Taupin. It was the two of them. Like we basically established that
They are a unit.
Elton John was the
Is the
combination of
band,
Bernie
which is
Taupin and
Elton John.
Reginald Dwight
Sure. Sure.
combined to be Elton John. And so I'm okay with not taking away a ton of points and giving
Yes.
partial credit for these.
And yeah, and I think we
But
can do
that's
it a
the
little
difference here for
differently,
me.
but I would say like Corey Wong is the band that he fronts and plays with. Like Corey Wong is the name given for when he tours as Corey Wong. It's Corey and the Wong, and the Wong notes are there as his backing band.
Yeah.
So it's like similar. I mean, obviously, I'm not going super high on this score either. Although I think all of the lyrics presented here significantly better. The lyrics on albums from Corey
100%.
Wong songs way better than the lyrics on Keith Urban albums.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, very seriously, could not agree with you more.
Yeah, they're at worst real average, and at best a little better than that.
Yes. That's fair. And I really do think that the real honesty in today
Today
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
get a
get
real
myself.
job
Yep,
is
that's
today I'm gonna get
really
myself a
good.
real job. Like that's
Those are very good lyrics
those are really good lyrics, and I wish there was more of them. Like
for
because
sure.
there are flashes of brilliance with
Hmm.
Corey's writing
Yep.
in the lyrics. And then I think everybody who's come in is putting together, I would say above average. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say
Sure.
I wouldn't say
Right.
there
I'm
was
saying at
average
worst average.
lyrics. Yeah, I'm saying like pretty typically above average work because they're coming in with that same energy that
Yeah.
Corey's coming in with. And
Hmm.
he's coming in with an above average energy in the writing.
Agreed.
Uh Unfortunately, I like again, there's just so many collaborators. I'm okay with not going fully negative and like
Yeah.
not counting them like we would with some other artists because of this specific instance.
Yep.
But I'm not gonna give him the same amount of points we'd give somebody with one collaborator,
Yeah.
like
I
the Elton
get it.
John situation.
Yeah, and we can still be below the average. We can still be,
Yeah, I
down,
think
but I don't think we're down, down. I just think we're down.
no. But I think that if you combine the number of instrumentals
Hmm.
with
Which is,
the
like I said, about
collaboration,
half. Yeah.
I think I think a score with like I would be in like the very high threes to low fours.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to go a 4?
I could do a four. I could live with a four.
All right. X Factor time. Do you have anything for Keith Urban?
I mean the Order of Australia, like that. I mean that's a pretty prestigious
It's unique.
award. That's probably would be the only thing I would say. I mean, he's won awards, he's won Grammys,
Sure.
he's a but how much of that is everything else?
Right.
I think the thing that
Yeah.
would set him
Something a little
apart,
more unique.
I think the thing that sets him apart is the Order of Australia.
Okay.
I think that's
Point
a big
what?
deal.
1, 2.
I mean, a full like if you equate that to being knighted, we usually give like a probably 0.3 for that. So I had to give it a
You
0.3.
think?
That's where
I
I would
don't
think.
know. Order of Australia.
How close does that make the points?
Oh, it's like really close either way. I
Okay,
don't know.
I'm scared,
I don't
man.
know if we've ever given a knighting half points. I think we like talked about it
I
and
wouldn't
just
say
like
a whole
thrown it
half
out
point.
there. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying
That,
Order of Australia being, but that's fine.
well,
Um,
I would say like if you're like I would say if you're knighted by your home country, that's what I mean. Like just I wouldn't compare
yeah,
Britain and
it's
Australia.
something. It's
It's
something.
something. Like if you've earned like the top civilian honors for your country, like I would give, there's people who what's the Medal of Freedom
Okay.
for us. Like I would say like
Mhm.
that's worth the same amount of points in America as like being knighted because it's the
Sure.
same style. We just don't call them
Okay.
sir or
All right.
that's the difference.
Okay. I mean, I have one thing really that I've already mentioned as potential X factor for Corey, and it's Corey and the Wong Notes. It's like a pretty incredibly unique thing that he put together 2 seasons of a variety show that includes um, music, collaborations with other artists, interviews, sketch comedy, all those things kind of like
Yeah.
pulled into one. And like pretty successful on like his episodes are pulling in hundreds of thousands of views each. He interviews some like pretty high profile musicians, same as
Can you
his
give me some
podcasts,
examples of musicians? Do you have any?
like Victor Wooten, Bela Fleck. So like people who are kind of virtuosic at what they do. Nate Smith, the drummer
Sure.
from Snarky Puppy. Um, he talks to a lot of people. Like he had a big, like a multi podcast series with John Mayer where they were jamming together and talking music. Joe Satriani has been on his podcast and talk like he's talked to a
Sure.
lot of pretty huge people on his podcast as well, which is also a very good listen.
Okay. Okay.
So between the show, I mean, I think the show is more than the podcast. I mean, not many musicians like this have one that they do as like a pretty big thing,
The
but
variety
the
show,
variety
yeah.
show is like
Yeah.
that's it. It's like nobody does that.
So what are you thinking to give?
I don't
Because
know,
of that?
like something minimal, 1 or
Yeah, I
2.
mean, I could see like a 0.1 because it's an interesting factoid. That's why I wanted to hear that because if you were like the podcast with John Mayer is also part of that for me because John Mayer's a big time artist.
Yes, he
These
is.
other artists are very good. I know the names that you gave. I know at
Yeah,
least 2 or 3 of the names that you gave. I know the level of talent we're talking about, but
exactly.
like
We're
they're
talking
also
about people
artists
who
who
are enormous in the musical
in
community.
the music world.
Yes,
The only name, unfortunately, really the only name you mentioned outside of that is John Mayer.
correct. Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you look at his podcast, it's definitely more names like that that would like jump
sure,
off
that makes
right away,
sense.
like a Derek Trucks or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think.
but
I mean, I think a 0.1 is good there, unless
that's
you
fair.
really are trying to go for a 0.2.
0.1's fine.
Okay.
All right, and I have final scores, and they are a fucking travesty.
Oh no, I was worried. I told you I was worried.
Yeah, winning this episode with the 3 worst albums I've ever heard in my life
Wah, wah, wah.
is Keith Urban with a 24.8.
Oh man.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And losing this episode as the superior musician, writer, and arranger is Corey Wong with a 24.7.
Oh man. Wait, it was.
It came down to the X Factor. Corey had a 0.1 lead going into the X Factor. He had a 0.1 deficit coming out of the X Factor.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's why I didn't want to influence it.
I get
I
it.
knew that that's what was going to happen.
That's why I was like, please influence it. Help me. Don't force me to make the decision here.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, what it boils down to is sometimes being an artist who sold like 30 or 40 million records wins you close competitions like this.
Yeah, especially when
I
you're just significantly worse at every other level.
100%. And like that's the thing. Like you and I will both sit here and totally agree with that. You and I will both sit here and say we will never listen to another Keith Urban song
Never.
voluntarily, and we'll both actively seek out more Corey Wong to listen
Mhm.
to. But for the sake of like our podcast and being fair score wise, like the unfortunate truth is sometimes the formula doesn't go your way.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, it goes to show you like for Corey Wong, somebody who is not in the mainstream and who is not nearly as popular as Keith Urban. And like, as I've said before on the podcast, if I go up and ask 100 random strangers on the street which one of these two artists they know, I will almost guarantee you that at least 80% of them will give me Keith Urban over Corey Wong.
Oh yeah.
So it just goes to show you that like your talent can make up a lot of difference because he lost by 0.1
Mhm.
and
But he lost by over 5 in cultural impact.
in cultural impact. He lost, and he lost by 10 times. Because that was you said a 0.6, and I thought that was interesting because Keith Urban got a 6 and he got a 0.6. So Keith Urban is 10 times more popular than Corey Wong, and he only
Right.
won by a 0.1 because everything he brought to the table was so lackluster.
Exactly.
But Keith, congratulations if you're interested in collecting a prize or being on the show.
Yeah, you
I'll
fucking idiot. You won because you're famous, but you suck. It was basically what we just said. But that's
I
fine.
I'll tell you.
Not
I
in
want
so
to end
many
with a
words.
positive about Keith Urban, who did win. I watched all of the before the reboot. I watched all of the seasons of American Idol. I did. Look, you know
I
what?
know.
I like those shows.
I know.
They're fun. Now, I'll tell you. After like Simon and Paula left, and then especially after Randy left, once the original three were gone, the revolving door of judges were a nightmare. I mean, there was like the Nicki Minaj season. It was rough times.
What does she know about vocals?
Trust me, I know. And I'll tell you what, after hearing her judge, not much. But
I didn't even have to watch a single episode to know that.
uh, Keith Urban had tough shoes to fill, in which he replaced Steven Tyler as a judge, and he came in and was the compassionate judge and did a good job and was arguably one of the best judges in terms of like continuing the show and giving honest feedback while trying to build real artists before the reboot. I haven't watched too much of the reboot, but I know that Lionel Richie's on it and I'm assuming he's incredible. But that's what I'll say to be positive about him.
Great.
So that's his niche is music show judging,
Perfect.
but not writing. Don't write anymore.
All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Big shout out if you're here for our 0.5 season here, 6.5. Really excited to try this out with you. And while you're checking us out here, check out our backlog. We got 6 full seasons of artists and music and controversy and fighting and yelling. And I promise you, this is not the first time Nick has yelled on podcast or been upset on podcast. This may be one of the first times that Nick's been upset that I haven't been upset, which is so if you want to hear us scream and yell and cuss and punch, I'm sure that's there somewhere. I don't remember which episode Tears for Fears was on, but that's the episode. Go back and find it. Go back and find it and have a great day. And fuck Jerry Lee Lewis. I was so worried, man. I was like, He's so
Yep.
much better, but nobody like. It's the popularity contest part of it.
I know.
It's an important part of it, but it sucks.
It sucks. All right.
Hey,
I can't hang around because I got a dog.
no, it's already
Great.
8:00.
So,
I'm
yeah.
also I'm ready. But
All right.
go live your dreams. Have fun with macchiato.
Will do. Adios.
Adios. I'm not hanging out too much myself, peeps. But anybody who was here, I know we had a commenter on for a little bit there. I want to, thank everybody for hanging out with us. If you stumble upon this later, thanks for being here. Go listen to music. That's the important part of it. Go listen to music. Specifically, if you listen to this episode, go listen to Corey Wong. Feel free to skip the Keith Urban, even though he won. But thanks for hanging out, and everybody enjoy the rest of your days. That's all that I'm going to say. So peace out.